How are you doing today, sir?
I'm good, Steve. How are you doing? Good to see you.
Good to see you again. So it's been like 8 years since you made Attack the Block.
Yeah.
And I am curious, did you ever come close to making something else since Attack the Block? Or was it always, you know what I mean? Talk a little bit about why it took so long for a second film.
Well, it was a number of reasons. First of all, I went straight into writing Ant-Man with Edgar Wright after Attack the Block. So we'd started on that way before Attack the Block, and we needed to see that through to completion. And that, in fact, took us to 2014. And in that period of time, I wrote a screenplay of Snow Crash. I was attached to a project called Rust. I also was attached to a project called Section 6, all really good scripts, but they never quite made it across the finish line. And then, in fact, 2012, I started thinking about this movie, started writing it in about 2014, started making it writing it in 2016, making it in 2017. Time flies, you know? Movies take a long time, especially an original movie it has Sir Patrick Stewart and Rebecca Ferguson, but it's driven by unknowns like Attack the Block. It's not based on a brand or an IP, you know. Original stuff takes the time to take off. But I apologize it was so long. I just wanted to give people plenty of time to think about things between the movies.
Completely. I thought you did such a great job with this.
Thank you.
I just want to say I just hope that you are making more movies soon because you have you're really good behind the camera.
I appreciate that, man. I've worked on something else, so I've got a script that's I think is in pretty good shape, needs a bit more work, but I'm going to try and get it done faster. That's what I didn't have before Attack the Block. I didn't have the next thing ready, so I'm going to I've tried to not make that mistake again. I feel like I'm in front of the movie headmaster, being ticked off for being late for my movie homework.
No, listen.
Cornish, come on.
Look, I think it does. I think people don't realize that sometimes it does take time, and you want to make something great. You know?
Yeah. Plus, it was. I got to be honest. I got so many amazing kind of approaches and stuff after Attack the Block that it was a bit kind of confusing for my career compass. So many different opportunities. It kind of stopped me in my tracks a little. It was like so many doors opening, you don't really know which one to go through. And I didn't want to leap into a massive movie that I couldn't handle. So instead I kind of took refuge in the process of writing Ant-Man, nestled under Edgar's hairy wing, and just observed for a bit. But I'm pleased, that I've made something that's from the heart. It's a movie I've wanted to make since I was a little kid. So, and hopefully, that's a worthwhile thing to have invested all those many years in.
Do you still get thank you cards from John Boyega for changing his life?
He owes me a huge amount of money, and he's still paying it off. We were incredibly lucky to have John for that movie, and there's some sort of saying I can never quite remember, which is you don't launch people's careers, you just open a door for them. And we opened a door for John, and he bolted through all the way to a different universe. And I mean, just incredibly proud to have had a part in the beginning of his career.
You obviously have a great knack for casting. What was it about Patrick Stewart that you think is going to make it for a career?
Well, he was in John Boorman's Excalibur, which is one of the inspirations for this movie, and he hasn't done much since, and I thought I'd give him a helping hand.
Sure.
I take 7 years between movies. How long has it been since?
Maybe
John
30 or 40.
Yeah, exactly. So, no, we were very lucky to have him. I kind of think of his role in this movie a bit like Sean Connery's role in Time Bandits, which is another of my favorite movies, where Time Bandits is led by kind of a cast of unknowns, but then it has this one star who appears 3 or 4 times and has a real influence over the movie. So Patrick Stewart is our Sean Connery for this movie.
Being completely serious, you really do have a knack for casting. I think that the actor who plays a young Merlin is fantastic.
Right.
If you had told me that he was Benedict Cumberbatch's younger brother, I would believe you.
Right.
Also, Andy Serkis' son is your main lead.
Right.
What was it about these actors? And talk a little bit about the casting process, because you really do have a knack for it.
Well, I appreciate that. I can't take the credit, really, because, of course, all directors work with casting directors. So we had a fantastic lady called Jessica Renane, who's the casting director at the Old Vic Theatre in London and casts all the Billy Elliots for the Billy Elliot musical all over the world. So she just did this big process of finding thousands of kids. And it's a real meritocracy. You know, you bring in a kid, whatever their experience, whether they're into drama at school, whether they've done nothing, whether they've done little stage parts, whether they're have had little parts in movies like Louis had, and you put them in front of a camera, and you give them a scene, you shoot it, you take the tape home, you watch it, you think, could this be in a movie? And with John, with Angus, with Louis, with Rihanna, with Dean, with all the people I've worked with there, you just sit at home watching their tape and you think, oh, this could be on a big screen. So it's a less scientific job than I always thought it was, casting. You just cast who you believe. And I'm lucky enough to have had really talented people turn up at the auditions.
I'm always curious. I love talking about the editing process because that's the final rewrite. What did you learn from early friends and family screenings and if test screenings that impacted the finished film?
We tested this movie a lot, and it in fact, from the very first screenings, it played incredibly well with kids aged about 7 all the way up to 14, like sort of off the charts well. And we made it a bit less frightening because some kids were being freaked out by Morgana. So we toned it down, we adjusted the mix a bit, we had a lot of very scary voices, a lot of heavy stuff in the low end of the mix. We adjusted the mix, we trimmed up the pace a little bit. But there were no massive revelations. What was satisfying was that a kind of wish fulfillment movie about this kid finding the sword and the stone is a sort of wish fulfillment movie for me as well, because I thought of it when I was a kid, and to get to make it is a wish fulfillment for me. And what was satisfying in the test screenings was it seemed to be working as a wish fulfillment movie for kids of the age I was when I thought of it. And that was really exciting.
I am curious what you learned playing someone who gets the autograph in Notting Hill that changed your trajectory.
And now, how do you mean?
I could be wrong, but I think you were like an extra, if you will, on Notting Hill. Or am I wrong about this?
No, that's not me. I'm in the background of Last Jedi.
Okay. Yeah, IMDb is wrong.
No, I'm flattered. That's a good mistake for IMDb to make.
Sure. Well, then I'll switch gears completely. No, I knew you played a trooper of some kind.
Yes.
In Last Jedi.
Yeah. Well, Ryan approached me because he knew he needed someone out of focus in the background, and he knew it was such an important role to have a kind of weird, very tall, slightly camp rebel soldier in the background of one of his shots. And I agreed to do it for a large sum of money, and I think I carry that movie. I don't think it would be the success it was without me.
I'm agreeing. But actually, being serious, one of the things, it's my last question, with Last Jedi and with this movie, that something that I really love about both is that it says anyone can be a hero.
Right.
And that's something that I think all of us, it's just a great message. Can you sort of talk about that aspect of this?
Yeah, well, one of the things I thought was interesting in a lot of mythology, and particularly British mythology, whether it's Harry Potter or the King Arthur story or Oliver Twist, is they're all about these kids from powerful families who get abandoned and brought up by a normal family, and then at a certain point in the story discover this amazing heritage. And I thought there was something a little weird about that in terms of the narratives we're telling our kids, and the world should be a place where anybody can achieve anything on the basis of the choices they make and who they are and what they do in the world. So I thought it'd be cool to tell a story about a boy that believes in those myths, the myth of King Arthur, who also is obsessed as a child with Harry Potter and Star Wars and all these films about bloodline and destiny. And then the journey he goes on actually flips that entirely and makes him realize that he's none of those things, but yet he can still achieve the heroic end. Plus, the key thing about King Arthur is the Round Table. And if you read the myth, it's never explicitly about Arthur. It's about all the knights and all their different side quests. And Arthur's actually quite a tragic figure. He's not the sort of unbeatable, irrepressible hero of mythology. He's quite flawed and troubled, and Camelot goes through terrible suffering. So the myth itself is very meritocratic. It's very much about a team, a unity, a group of people working together to achieve an aim. It's not that solo hero myth that has been so common.